Welcome back to another video here with me at the Aspiring Home Cook. In today's video, I'm going to share with you a few tips and tricks that I use to decorate my Easter eggs. This is just a small assortment and these are very simple techniques. Once you start decorating Easter eggs, you let your imagination run wild and I'm sure you'll have a lot of fun doing it. Alright, so without any further delay, let's get right ahead and take a look at how we got this little assortment. Now today I'm going to show you a few things that I use to make my Easter eggs. I know there's probably a million ways, methods, molds and other things that you can use to make your Easter goodies, but these are a few things that I go back to year after year when I make them. At the end of the video, I will show you some of my work from the past, back when I used to do this in Mumbai. So a few of the things that I always use are Easter egg molds. Now these you should be able to find at any local cake decorating store, especially this time of the year. I have two different sizes. You get them in quite a few. Just pick up the size that suits you most. Now, with these kind of molds, I tend to buy at least two per size to make the whole egg, and you'll see how in just a little while. Now, you also tend to get plastic molds. So this is more of a 3D rabbit mold again. This is more of a lay flat, a 2D rabbit mold. I don't use these very often. I find them quite fiddly, but they are available and you can use them if that's something that you're going for. A couple of other molds that I also use are these little bonnet molds and this little chicken on a basket. Now apart from these, you also get chocolate molds like this. They're little plastic Easter egg molds and I'll show you why I use this as we progress in the video. Something that I haven't used before but I'm very eager to try out this year are these silicone molds. I know that these will work really well with chocolate. Now those are the things as far as shaping your Easter molds. Now to decorate them, what I use is royal icing. And I'll add a link to the video where I show you how to make the icing as well as the piping bags here. In addition, what you also find are little flowers. These are pretty sugar flowers that you can find in store ready to use. So even if you don't have the time to whip them up, you get flowers like this in an assortment of colors that you can use to pretty up your Easter eggs and such. Now, what do you do if you don't have any of these molds? You can also form your Easter eggs and Easter goodies freehand. It will take a little bit longer, but it's definitely doable. What I have here are two different types of marzipan. Now, if you haven't seen my videos before, I will link them up right here. This is some of my almond marzipan, the no-cook one that I've just colored using food color. Now again, when you're coloring marzipan, I tend to use gel food colors. You can use whatever you have on hand, but I find that gel food colors are a lot easier to work with than liquid food colors. Alright, so what I've done is to save time, I've gone ahead and I've added just a drop of the gel food color into the marzipan and I've gone ahead and worked that through till I was happy with the colors. What I have here is my original cashew nut marzipan recipe. I will link that here as well for you. Now, what I found while working with both is taste-wise, both are really good in their own way. I love the taste of the almond marzipan, but I find it a little difficult to work with when it comes to shaping into intricate molds. It can be done, it's just a little tougher. Also, this tends to release a lot more natural oil while you're working and forming it. But if you leave them out to set, you will find that they dry up really well, like you can see here. Alright, now if you don't have Easter egg molds, don't feel like you have to go out and buy them. I'm going to show you how I formed this little Easter egg just using my hands. Roll your marzipan into a ball and taper it towards one side. And very soon you'll see your portion of marzipan starting to look like an egg. with it till you're happy with the shape, with the form, with the size. All that's up to you. But if you're hard pressed, I'd say you can actually use this just as is. And I'll show you how I use my molds now. Like you can see here, this marzipan is a lot more pliable and a lot easier to work with. Now the trick to getting marzipan that's shaped well is to make sure that you don't have too many cracks on the outside. So roll that into a little ball, doesn't need to be perfect, and then you're going to press it down into the mold. And ever so gently, you're going to coax it out of the mold. You can tidy up any edges that might have gone out of shape, but there you have it. That's one little chicken on a little basket ready for you. Now you can also take this one notch up, use two different colors, one for the basket, one for the bird. Now I'm just giving you a few ideas. Let your imagination run wild. I'd love to see what you come up with. Don't forget to tag me in any pictures on social media. On Instagram, we're at the Aspiring Home Cook. We'd love to see what you come up with. All right? I'm going to use one little bonnet now. Again, it's the same process. Just make sure you have one nice portion that's without any cracks on the outside, and you're going to press that into your mold. Then using your thumbs, gently coax it out. I tend to ease it out using the back because the back I can very easily reshape. I don't lose too much detail. If you try and get it out of the front, you lose some of that little ruffled edging. Okay, and then just tidy up the edges, and there you go. You've got a lovely little bonnet just like that. Now you're probably wondering, what about the eggs? Yeah, I'm going to show you how to use these also. We're going to use both sides, or two half molds. Use a little more marzipan than you think you'll need to fill up your mold. Again, you might have to work with those quantities a little. And here's how I do it. I actually use a little extra, so you can see it's a little over that edge. I'm going to do the same thing with the second mold. All right, then all you do is press those two together, and you'll get a little bit of the excess that comes out of the side, and that's just fine. Okay, couple of things that you can do. You can either tuck that back in, you can trim off those edges. If it's not too much of an edge that you see, you can just leave that on there. It actually holds the next part, that is the icing, on a lot better. The rest of it you can just press it in. You won't even be able to see it once we're done. All right, now that's a whole egg. We're going to set that aside. Another option that you have is to make half egg portions. Roll that into a ball. Tuck that in and coax that out really gently. So I'm just using my fingers to wedge that out. And this is just half an egg, so one edge is flat. But if you're laying these on a plate, you really can't tell the difference. Another thing that I do is I make these little Easter eggs. These are perfect if you have to take some in to work. You can either form them freehand like we did with those ones, or if you're a perfectionist, form them into a little mold, tuck them in so that you get uniform shapes. Now here's how I do it. I leave a little excess over the edge, like you can see here, and I just pull that out. So the top is perfectly formed and looks absolutely perfect. Let's try these silicone molds now. These look absolutely gorgeous. I'm going to get the camera to focus. So they're like little embossed eggs. They're just one color, but if you don't have the time to ice and decorate, I would highly recommend getting a mold like this. These are one of those things that I won't even bother with icing. They look just perfect as they are. Let's talk piping bags. If you haven't already seen, I've put up a little video on how you can make these little paper piping bags using just baking paper or parchment paper. I'll add a link to that video right here so that you can have a look at that. And those are easy to use and brilliant when it comes to smaller amounts of icing. Now with my Easter eggs, I tend to use a lot of white. I don't color my royal icing at all. You can add whatever color you'd like to the batch that we've made. So most of these reusable bags will come with a little coupler. One end goes inside the bag. And the other end holds your nozzle, which you then screw back onto that end. Now, let's talk nozzles. You get a whole heap of different varieties, shapes, forms. I'm going to use a little star-shaped nozzle. All right, there we go. This is a little star-shaped nozzle. Again, you can use as big a star or as little a star as you'd like. It depends on the look that you're going for. And you'll see what this does in just a bit. Now, in addition to that star-shaped nozzle, I'm also going to use one of these. It's a very fine tip nozzle, just a little round hole over there to do a lot of my icing, and I'll show you how. Just to give you an idea. So this little fine tip nozzle of mine is my Wilton number 2 nozzle. You can use any other brand that gets you a tip like this. So this end, we'll start out with the star-shaped one. That goes in this end and screw that on. And you're ready to pop your icing into the bag. Now I find the easiest way to put your icing into the icing bag is to stand that in a tall glass and fold your bag open. The reusable bags as well as the disposable bags tend to be a lot bigger than the paper ones, so I find that this really helps. Now, while you're working and doing everything else, getting everything else set up, please remember to keep your royal icing covered, otherwise it's going to harden. And once it hardens, you won't be able to use it. Okay. So I'm going to put a bunch of my icing in here. And wipe that down. Okay, what you're going to do is push all the icing towards the top of the bag just till it becomes visible on that tip and stop right there. We're going to look at a few methods that I use to pipe my Easter eggs. Holding your piping bag like this, let's see if I can zoom in here. We're going to start off with a little shell pattern. So you hold your piping bag at an angle, squirt out some icing and pull. Squeeze, pull, squeeze, pull. Remember, when you're performing that pulling action, you're easing on that pressure. So you end up with a little shell pattern that looks like this. All right, and this is what we're going to use for the edges of our eggs. Now, when you're icing, it's always handy to keep a little hand towel so that you can keep wiping that nozzle if you need to. You're going to have to excuse me, I haven't done this in years, so I'm a little rusty. That's one method, and you leave that to dry. At no point will you touch that icing. If you touch that icing, you ruin it, just like I've done right there. So with this half egg, we're going to pretty much do the same thing. I hope you can see what I'm doing. I'm doing the exact same pattern that I did there, but I'm going to do this almost at the base of that Easter egg. Squeeze and pull. As you're doing your little pulling action, you're going to release a little bit of that pressure. And remember, it gets a lot easier with time. So if you've got the time to practice, nothing like it. All right, and now you leave that for the icing to set. We're going to work on this little chicken and the bonnet. Now at this point, I like to switch over to my fine tip. Now, like you remember that little shell technique that we did there, where we pump out a little of the icing and pull that out. We're going to do the same thing with this little fine tip. Yeah, so we're going to use the fine tip to do the exact same method. All right, so I just do a little bit on this edge of the basket. And I use these ridges as a little guide to tell me when to stop and how far to pull. And I do the same thing with the bonnet. Now, I leave it just like that with my bonnets, but if you like, you can actually spice that up using a couple of flowers. Now, the way you attach these flowers is you pipe a little bit of that icing sugar on the back and place that down where you want it to sit. There you go. We're going to leave these aside to set. With your larger Easter eggs, you can do a couple of things to fill up that top space if you don't have access to sugar flowers. Using that same fine tip that I did, we're going to pipe out something that's called a canary lace. So it's basically a lace pattern, and what you do is, using one sweeping motion, you get curly lines. No rhyme. Try and not get breaks. If you do, that means there is some blockage. Wipe your nozzle out and probably start again. So try it out on a surface like a plate before you start. And you're just going to you can get intricate if you'd like to. You can keep it simple. Just make sure you've got even pressure, and eventually it ends up looking really cool on your Easter egg. So there you have it, guys. These are a few little techniques that I use while decorating my Easter goodies. Now, just a disclaimer, I haven't done this in years, so my technique is not as perfect as I would like it to be, but I hope that this can help you with a few ideas, or at least a starting point to decorate your own Easter eggs and bonnets and chicks this Easter. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, do give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Once you do, go ahead and click that little bell icon right next to it so that you can get notified every time a new video gets uploaded. Also, if you know family or friends that would want to start dabbling in decorating Easter eggs and such, please go ahead and share this video with them. Thank you so much for watching today, and I'm going to see you really soon with another delicious recipe. So till then, take care. Bye.